Baptist podcast, we gather around to talk theology, politics, and the sweet banjo sound. Kevin Thompson leads the way, teacher and preacher too. With a men's quartet, the harmonies ring true. Gather around the mic, let's find our way, singing praises, strumming banjo strings all day. Amputated Baptist podcast, where we all belong. Join the harmony, let it carry us along. With a passion for faith and a banjo by our side, we don't deep, we don't hide, we take it all in stride. From parables to politics, every topic on the table, let's harmonize together, let's make it stable. In the chord progressions we find our peace, singing praises, strumming banjo strings all day. Amputated Baptist podcast, where we all belong. Join the harmony, let it carry us along.
Theology, politics, and a little bit of banjo. You're listening to the Amputated Baptist podcast. And now, here is your host, the Amputated Baptist himself, Kevin Thompson.
Hello and welcome back to the podcast. Today, my guest is an old friend and first time on the podcast, Richard Reid. Richard, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me here today.
All right, so we're going to be talking about, we talk about politics on here quite a bit. And Richard, you are running for mayor of Brockton, Massachusetts. Now, those of you who know me know that's where I'm from. And even though I'm living in Wisconsin right now, I wanted to do this podcast for several reasons. And the first reason above all is that I still have a lot of friends, family, and listeners living in Brockton. And so I wanted to make sure they knew who to vote for. And you have my public endorsement. I don't know if that'll help you or hurt you, but you have it and it's there. So Richard, you are the pastor at North Baptist Church, where you and I both worked there for a little while before I moved out here to Wisconsin. And you're not just a pastor; that you've done quite a bit in IT, quite a bit in education. I know genealogy is a passion that you have. So the big question I have to start off with is the question I ask almost every politician running for office. I always say there's a difference between guys like you and guys like me. Guys like me, we watch what's going on, we yell at the television, crumple up the newspaper. But what separates you is that you might do those same things, but you stand up and say, you know what? I can actually do something about this stuff. I want to be part of the solution. And so, Richard, why run for mayor? What is it that just drove you to say, I've got to jump in this race?
Well, actually, it goes back quite a bit of years here now, because for the last 10 years, I've been involved locally here on the political scene, either as a counselor, advisor to city councilors, and to the mayor. And it was always interesting that, first of all these Democrats here were taking advice from a Republican, but they were also only taking advice from a Canadian. So about 3 years ago, I finally got my U.S. citizenship. I've been eligible to get it for many, many years. I've been in the States since 1992. And everybody would ask me the same question when I would start complaining or commenting on the state of political affairs in the community I was living in. And they always asked me was, well, why haven't you become a U.S. citizen? And my answer was always, because I could not be the president, vice president, or speaker of the House. And that satisfied me until I really got involved here in Brockton. And working with the mayor and leading a team of clergy and pastors that meet with the mayor regularly. This was started 3 mayors ago. And it was a monthly gathering we would have in his office to pray for him and the city. And then it was because of him, he got sluggish. And so once a month became once every 3 or 4 months. And then it became only whenever he got caught up in, he was front page story in the newspaper, and he would call us for prayer. Um, then he died in office, and they put an interim mayor in there for 7 months, and he would never call us. He never reached out to the pastors of the city. He wouldn't take our calls. We were cut off completely, and which was very interesting because the guy that was the interim mayor worked for the Archdiocese of Boston, but did not want to have anything to do with religious leaders. And he is one of my opponents this year. He went back out to council at large after that. There was a new mayor elected. He has served 3 terms. This is the end of his 3rd term, but he decided that he's not going to run again. And so it's an open seat. And I saw so many silly and stupid decisions made. I couldn't stand by anymore. And but in prior to it, I had served on the mayor's COVID council, and I was the only person on the council that was of my opinion, based on scientific facts.
Yeah.
And they had a special doctor, a medical consultant, and he and I would have some epic battles on the Zoom calls.
Yeah.
And I saw what the city did. Now we came into Massachusetts, had its migrant crisis. I saw what the city was doing, and I decided that it's time to step in and do something about it, because having people that want to be liked by everybody is not the solution, nor is it the solution to keep doing the same things over and over again,
right,
and expecting different results. We both know what that's a definition of.
Right.
So the time is right to do it. Full support from the church to do it. We have been involved, contrary to the Johnson Amendment, for many, many years. We would endorse candidates. Now we have the permission of the IRS to do so, but I certainly don't trust their word. But we're doing it anyway. So we've endorsed candidates for many years, and so the church fully endorsed me, and it's time to step up to the plate and take on a new challenge.
Now, the only thing that upsets me about this is that you weren't this political 17 years ago when I was still in town, and I think we would have gotten along a lot greater. But I'm glad that you're making this decision, because I think the city. It's a city I still love. It's a city I plan to come back to, and it's a city my family still lives in. And so I want this city to prosper. I want this city to do well, and I think that you do a great job of doing that. One of the things I know about you is that you're a very generous person. You're a very giving person. That's something you can't say yourself, but I'll say it for you. You're generous with your time, with your resources. You've volunteered quite a bit, even before jumping into the political circus here. But here's something I'm curious about, because as you said, you're an immigrant, you're Canadian. You just recently got your citizenship, but you've lived in Brockton now for a number of years, and many people don't see, why would someone choose to live in Brockton? And so you not only do you live there, but you're engaged there. What is it about the city of Brockton that just gets you, or that keeps you here, and that something that you love about the city?
Well, it's hard to say no to go someplace when it's the Lord that has put you there.
Yeah.
And you understand that part of it.
Right.
Many people in the city of Brockton do not understand that aspect of it. They see all the bad things, and of course, it seems like the only media that Brockton gets is bad stuff.
Yeah.
That people don't see the good things in Brockton. There are a number of good churches in the city outside of Baptists that preach the gospel. And I think you probably noted earlier that I made reference to pastors and clergy.
Right.
And the pastors are the ones that preach the gospel, although they may be in a completely different denomination and one where people wouldn't even expect them to preach the gospel, but they have good men there. And then there's the clergy, which, well, I kind of define as the professionals that are in there and really don't do anything to spread the gospel. And my battle in Brockton goes back probably about 8 years now when they were trying to bring a casino into our city, put it next to the high school. And prior to that, I was just the pastor of a small church. We did our thing in the city whenever we could. We have the gospel messages all over our building because we're also the host of a mission board, Gospel Text Mission, where we put these signs out on the roads and at people's houses. So we were kind of known around the city, but not really known, even though we've been here this year, the 139th anniversary. But when I went to the first meeting that was held in a church, I was about the casino. I went to go see what the others were saying. And somehow I walked out of that meeting that night as the face of the opposition. So that I meant I was at every gaming commission meeting. I was on TV all the time, radio all the time. I don't know how it happened. I still don't. I go back and wonder. I do remember somebody walking up to me that night and said, "What are you doing here?" Said, "Your church doesn't get along with anybody." And I'm like, "Really?" I said, "Just because we're Independent Baptist Church, you automatically assume we don't believe the same things as others do and preach the gospel?" And they just went silent and left. Later on, they had another meeting, and there were about 30 ministers in the meeting. And I was asked to get up and speak and talked about the ills of a casino in town and where the churches would be the first line of defense for when, we'll say, Dad, who was the breadwinner, went there and spent all the money he made that week, and now the family has to be fed. So their first line of defense was to go to churches. And, we used to have people come all the time. We had a small food pantry. We'd give whatever we could. Other churches did it all. Well, I got up that night and I finished my spiel. And then I said, well, let me say this. The fact is that the casino was only a symptom of the problem. The real problem is most of you out there either stop preaching or have never preached the gospel of Jesus Christ. Now, to this day, at least 50% of that group have never spoken to me again. But somebody walked up to me after I said that and said, "I've been here for 20 years and I've wanted to say that. I don't know how you got away with saying it tonight, but thank you." And so hence began my involvement in the politics of Brockton. And now I look at the fact that, there are 8 of us running for mayor, and we will have the preliminary election on September 16th. And you try to break down, well, who's running? What do they stand for? And some of them have had many years in the politics of Brockton, and I see they've done very, very little.
Right.
We have one person running that says that they're a Republican, but does not even live in Brockton. But yet they have an address in here, so they're able to be on the thing. There's myself, and then there's a 5 either I think they're all Democrats, but one of them might be unenrolled. And then we have a member of the Socialist Party of Massachusetts running for mayor of Brockton. So why not step up is kind of the question to ask.
Yeah. So let's take this from a different perspective. Now, you're a pastor, and so on one side, you're going to have people who say, well, separation of church and state. You can't do that. We don't want a pastor running and trying to shove your Christian nationalism down Brockton's throat. But on the other hand, you'd also have Christians who are saying, well, listen, you're called to preach the gospel. Why would you get involved in the dirtiness of politics? As you know, First Timothy or Second Timothy tells us that a good soldier shouldn't be entangled with the affairs of this world. So how do you answer both of those critics as you feel this is something that God has led you to do? This is something you feel like you can help your community with. How do you placate or just answer those critics?
Okay, well, first of all, separation of church and state is not in the U.S. Constitution.
Right.
It is in a letter to the Baptist Church in Danbury, Connecticut, from Thomas Jefferson. And the meaning of his letter was, keep the state out of the church, but we do not have to keep the church out of the state. Mm-hmm. And so that, that's as simple as it gets there. But as for, let's see, my examples are literally from the Old Testament.
Yeah.
We have just finished a series on the book of Nehemiah.
Yeah.
Okay? Nehemiah, his official job was the cupbearer to the king. And he asked to go home to Jerusalem to check on things and help rebuild Jerusalem because it had been destroyed by the Babylonians. And he spent 12 years doing that. That was a long-term vacation. He was involved in every aspect of life, including the political life of Jerusalem and Israel. And then there's Daniel.
Yeah.
Taken as a young lad, probably 14, 15 years of age, brought to Babylon, and he and his three friends decided that we're not going to eat the king's meat. We're going to, we're just going to eat water and pulse, and you give us a test, and we're going to be healthier, better looking, smarter than anybody else, which was the truth. And he actually became the president of Babylon. There was a king, but the king gave all his affairs over to Daniel. He was a political leader, and he also included his three buddies that he grew up with as head of the province of Babylon. So we have examples there. We have examples truly, in the New Testament with the Apostle Paul. Paul wasn't always a missionary. He wasn't always a pastor. He was part of the Sanhedrin. He was a legal person that took care of these things. And the fact that he was a Roman, later on, that came out to more prevalence in his life. Like, all right, you want to kill me? Can you do this to a Roman citizen? And the answer was no. So Paul was involved in every aspect of life. And again, I love the fact of when he was, in Athens, he's on a missionary journey. They are the most religious people in the world, the Greeks, even to the fact that they had a statue, an idol unto the unknown God. And there Paul is able to give to the secular people the message of Jesus Christ and his gospel.
Right.
So there's nothing to keep church-going people from being involved in local politics. When I came to Brockton initially, and I was determined, the same thing as I've had every other place I've been placed by the Lord, was whenever I leave, I wanted to leave as a better place than when I came.
Yeah.
And unfortunately for Brockton, that's setting the bar a little low right now. So
you don't have an agenda, you're not trying to build a theocracy in Brockton. You're not going to mandate church attendance at North Baptist or anywhere else. You're seeking, as a Christian, you have love for your community, you have love for your neighbor, and you're simply trying to make Brockton a better place. Is that a fair statement?
That's a fair statement.
Yeah.
When you're in business, and I've been for 42 years, um, had my own business or worked as a consultant within other businesses and higher education and wherever it was, there has to be a place that you separate wanting to just preach the gospel all the time and do your job. Now, you never
Yeah.
compromise.
Right.
You never compromise your beliefs. But I'm not going to shove it down your throat, say, you've got to come to my church.
Right.
And again, that's kind of, it distinguishes me from some others that have tried this because that's what they were wanting to do. They thought the
Yeah.
only way that their community would survive is to be a theocracy. And God hasn't called us to do that. He's
Right.
called us to be a witness to the world. It doesn't mean the world's going to disappear. It's
Yeah.
going to be there, and we have to live according to his principles within the
Right.
world.
And I think when we look at Romans 13, you do have a plan. I think you do have a God's plan for secular government. I don't think we have to institute, whether it's a theocracy, Christian, whatever the language is the left is throwing at us today.
Yeah.
That's not who we are. And there are godly principles that can guide someone such as you or others in your position to simply make the community a better place, giving freedom for all, giving justice for all. That benefits everybody, not just the Christian church, but whether it's the Islamic mosque or the Jewish temple, whatever. Everyone benefits when the community benefits. So, Richard, tell us a little bit more about what is your vision for Brockton? What do you want to do? Let's say the voters say, you know what, we're electing you. Once you're in office, what's your vision? What's your plan?
Oh, there's so many. There's so many
It's a
plans.
big question on purpose.
Yeah. Well, we have some options here before the city because the Commonwealth of Mass has required all communities to have a water source and a backup water source. And our backup water source is the Aquaria desalination plant. That's, I think, probably 18 miles away. And it's supposed to be our pipeline for emergency water. Unfortunately, it's not been kept up, but there have been previous mayors that have wanted to buy it. There's been enough opposition. It's never gone through that. We're at this stage now that there's people talking about, well, let's buy it. Well, like they want millions of dollars for the plant. Then they're going to need millions of dollars to bring it up to state and federal standards. And it can only, right now, it can only, at its maximum capacity is 50% of what the city of Brockton needs and uses on a particular day. So like, I don't think it's the solution to go ahead and spend all this money that we do not have because we did have some of the money, but because of a school scandal a couple of years ago, the school committee and administration, they were short $18 million and in 1 year. And instead of being taken over by the state, which they do when a school district runs short like that, the city was able to bail out the school district because they used the rainy day fund. So now there's very little in that fund that we've been building up over years. So not only are we dealing with, a water problem, we're dealing with all the other aspects you deal with a small city. We've really been hurting and dealing with the migrant problem. The population of Brockton is 106,000 on the books, but we believe that it's closer to 125, 130,000. And, we're going to find out tomorrow when school starts, how many children are not going to be going to school because they're afraid. Well, that's what they're saying. That's what the leftists are telling us,
Yeah.
that they're afraid. Um, you know, those of my, it was like, what are they doing here? They're not here legally. I'm an immigrant. I came legally. I deal with immigrants all the time. I think it's so important in our city because we are a gateway city.
Yep.
And so we have many different cultures that are here in Brockton. Again, I have to emphasize this. We only have one race in this world. It's the human race.
Great.
We have all kinds of cultures and ethnic backgrounds, and you know, and I've been working with all of them for the whole time I've been here. I've actually built computer labs and taught classes for the Haitian population, which is very large in Brockton.
Yeah.
Also, I built a lab recently for the Nigerian immigrants that are here. There's a third lab that I've built and maintained. Uh, I'm on the board of a school called Sauncher, which is going to be an LPN training school, and it's mainly for Haitians that have immigrated to Brockton. And of course, I've also served on the Brockton Public Library Foundation for the last number of years, been the vice president. So I'm in charge of all the finances, which is kind of cool. But I've watched the city go, well, by our definition, gone woke.
Yeah.
And it needs to be turned. Kevin, you had mentioned that I'm also a genealogist.
Great.
And you won't recognize the upstairs of the old school building anymore. I think your first classroom is now the Irish Library and Massachusetts Library Room.
Interesting.
We have the second largest genealogical library in Massachusetts.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's expanding. It's not what I intended. It just kept expanding. Thousands and thousands of volumes, almost 9,000 volumes have been cataloged so far. Over 25,000 digital books. All the services that are used for genealogy. So I do lectures all around New England on this. And last year I was asked to do one on the history of the shoe industry in Brockton.
Right.
At the turn of 1900s, there were 100 shoe factories in Brockton. There are none now. And so I was asked to do a study and so, here's the history here. I was able to get some good pictures from those days and, but what killed the shoe industry? And upon my study of it, I found out that what happened was socialism came to Brockton in the 1910s. We actually had the first socialist mayor in all of the United States.
I did not know that.
Yeah. And we used to have the key communists and socialist leaders in Europe would come over to lecture in America, and the only place they could get a gig was in Brockton. And so after the big strike in the late 1920s, socialism took over the shoe industry, and then it was gone. It was dying quickly. By the 60s, I think they were down to about 15 factories, and the last factory closed about 15 years ago, 16 years ago. The last shoe factory in Brockton closed.
Sad.
Again, it's what killed it. And to me, it was socialism. And so we've got to ditch that.
Right.
I've been campaigning with, we need new people.
Yeah.
Now, in this election for Brockton, there are more new people on the ballots for all the different positions than any other election in the history of Brockton. But there's only a handful. Oh, actually, there's only two of us. One for a school committee position and one for the mayor that have different ideas. So, it's again, a different philosophy, everything. And one of the things too, that's interesting here in Brockton is the mayor is the chairman of the school committee.
Hmm.
So I think it's very important that you have somebody that understands education.
Right.
And I've taught everything from fourth grade to 12th grade, college classes, trade schools. I've been administrators, business manager of schools. So I'm the only one that fits all the bills of understanding education, understanding finance, and understanding business. And so to me, it's a logical choice.
Yeah.
And to many people already in Brockton, it is a logical choice. And I've
as you
got
said
support of
before,
Democrats.
well, as you said before, voting for the same people over and over and over again and expecting a different result, well, it's literally the definition of insanity.
Yes.
And so we need new people. And Richard, I think you've got the heart for the job. I think you have the skills for the job. I think you have the background for the job. And now it's our job to get you the job. And so I want you guys to check out the website, Committee to Reelect. That'll be in the future, we hope.
That'll be in 2 years' time.
Yeah, so Committee to Elect Richard Reid.com. And you can see a basic platform here. But if you scroll down to the bottom of the page, there's a very important little link here for online donations. Any campaign that's going to win needs money to do it. And so even if you're not in a position where you can vote for Richard, maybe you're living outside the Brockton, you can still help with donations, and especially if you live in the city of Brockton. Definitely, whatever amount I'm sure could be used. And Richard, one last question before we close this out. September 16th, people are coming to the ballot. As they're looking at these different 8 names, what's the last thing you want them to think about when they see the name Richard Reid?
Well, to quote the election commissioner, when I was in the office the first time to request pulling papers, because I pulled papers for mayor and a ward councilor, because I hadn't decided at that point which one I would do. And there were a group of people in the room, including all the staff and several other people that worked at City Hall. And she said, "Oh, don't mind him. He doesn't know what he's doing." Which that took up the challenge. I have a surprise for the person. I know what I'm doing. I've been doing this a long time. Way back in the mid-'80s, I was heavily involved in politics in Canada, in so much that I wrote the education policy for a provincial party and a federal party, and served as the Minister of Education in opposition, a non-elected position. But I've understood politics. Growing up, my dad was heavily involved in politics, and I got to meet a former Prime Minister of Canada, shake his hand. Not that I would agree with his policies, but I got to meet him. So it was impressed upon me the importance of citizens to get involved, because anybody can sit back and play Monday morning quarterback.
Yep.
And you cannot make a difference that way. The only way you make a difference is that you get involved.
Yeah.
And I've done it in every way possible that I can in the city of Brockton, with the exception of that I have not run for office. And this is the year that it needs to be done. So, when they see the name there, I think they put on the ballot Richard D. Reid, which I always point out is very important to me when I'm traveling, that I am not Richard C. Reid, because that's a shoe bomber who happens to be Supermax prison. And that's a big difference. But, normally I don't use the middle initial unless I have to explain something.
All right. So It's been said that history is made by those who show up, and that's what we need you to do on September 16th, is to show up. We want you to vote for Richard Reid there in Brockton, Massachusetts. Again, the website, committeetoelect.richardreid.com. Richard, thanks a lot for being on the podcast. We really appreciate your time, and we appreciate what you're doing there.
All right. Well, thank you very much. Take
All
care.
right, for
We'll
all
see
of
you
it, the
next
rest of
time
you guys,
visit.
thanks for listening. And again, check out our website. We'll have these links in our show notes. Our website, amputatedbaptist.com. Come back next week. We've got another exciting podcast for you then. So until next week, have a great rest of your week.
Singing praises, strumming banjo strings all day. Amputated Baptist Podcast, where we all belong. Join the harmony, let it carry us along.